Yeah.
I would have surrendered on first. Like, no. Like, no way. I was like, when you get a rock under your sandal?
Yeah.
Ooh, the war would have been over right there, dude.
Yeah, no, they are. I mean, they're tough.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
But things like, why are we dealing with the homeless? Why are we responding to mental health issues, or child care issues, or my 11-year-old daughter won't mind me? Why does that fall on us? And the reason is because there's nobody else out there to do it. So everything that there's no solution for falls on the police.
Yeah. And y'all aren't trained for everything.
And we're not trained for everything, right? And so I am all for saying, hey, look, why don't we take some of this police funding and use it to help address some of these other problems so that it doesn't turn into a police problem? Hey, man, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But that's not how they were presenting it at first. Because at first, I don't think there was a whole lot of difference between defund the police and abolish the police. And now a bunch of the people who were screaming about defunding the police are saying, oh, no, that's not what we meant. It doesn't have anything to do with that. But
what was that place in Portland? That they created that little utopia. Seattle.
Yeah,
it was supposed to be their little utopia or whatever, and it turned into a big fucking fiasco, right?
It was
people getting murdered.
People getting murdered. And, all this shit about Black Lives Matter and, it's the blue wall of silence, the cops protecting each other. Everyone, the two people they killed, everyone they shot in the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, they were all black. Two of them got murdered. I think two others were shot. All of those motherfuckers over there won't talk to the police. They're all, we're not going to snitch, fuck the police, all that stuff. So they don't care about those black lives. They don't give a shit. No one's over there.
I guess those black lives didn't matter to them.
No, those didn't matter. They're not over there protesting. Nobody's going to burn down anything in protest of those dickheads who were in the CHOP or the Chaz.
Yeah.
So no, it's only the police.
So they got
anyone
away
else,
with it,
that's okay.
Those people, they did that?
Yeah, they got away with two murders, and I believe it was two additional shootings. They got away with it.
That's crazy, man. It's crazy fucking times with the pandemic. I think the pandemic has a lot to do with it, about cops responding to shit. I've noticed this since the pandemic happened, and when we went to that first lockdown and the streets were just like wide open, everyone's driving like a fucking maniac now.
Yeah.
Everyone's driving like a maniac, and now when they said, get rid of your mask and grab a gun, there's so many road rage shootings now. Because everyone's driving like a fucking jackass and everyone's got a gun. Or acting like it too.
I don't know. Where I'm at, we're not...
Really?
We're seeing a huge spike in threats against schools.
What do you mean? The students? Students being smart asses. A lot of them are just trying to get people riled up and shit like that. But there have been school shootings. That's crazy because there was school shootings every day right before the pandemic.
I don't think it was every day.
Well,
they were.
It was just a regular thing.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen much about them now. Are they still going on? Is it still
there was that one in Arlington that just happened a few days ago.
That's right.
Yeah.
But they didn't kill anyone, right? That's good. Luckily, it's the first time there's been one.
One kid got shot 4 times with a .45, and he's in a medically induced coma.
Yeah, that's good.
And he is now the bad guy because the shooter family said, well, he was being bullied. So now everyone's blaming this kid who's in a coma. Oh, well, he must have been bullying this other guy. That's why he took a gun to school and shot him, and shot his teacher, and shot someone else. And that kid got bonded out the next day.
So you sound like you're on his side.
So he's a rich kid.
You sound like you're really going to put a GoFundMe.
What's that?
So he's a rich kid.
No.
He wasn't a rich kid.
No. He's not as far as I know.
Yeah.
But you usually don't get to take that stance unless you are rich.
Yeah, like the lawyer.
My little Smokey's been getting bullied.
I don't know the socioeconomic status of the family. It's a black family.
Mm-hmm.
Of the shooter?
The shooter, yeah.
And the one that got shot up, is he a black kid too?
That I don't know. Yeah, I don't know or anything about the teacher or the other victims.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember, like, people were shooting up schools when I was in high school. I remember on the last day of school, though, this one dude took a gun to school and was showing us in class. He was showing me and David DeLeon. He was like, he had a little revolver and was like, if anyone fucks with me today, I'm going to fucking shoot him. And we were like, really? We're like, let's see. We're like, who here wants to fuck with us? And then all of a sudden we were talking shit to people thinking like in that class, and that was it. But we didn't take it serious.
Yeah.
He didn't give a shit.
Do you think part of it is due to before, like in the 80s, you got bullied at school, you would leave school, it's done. Now it's like you leave school
and it follows
it's
you
like
on social
media,
media
and it drives those kids nuts.
No, but you went to school and you fought people in the 80s, and then they showed up and they fought you again, and they fought you after school at the
But
wings,
think about
and
the
you went to
kids
the
now.
alley and
Are,
fought.
are they fighters now?
Yeah, I don't know if the kids are fighting
Most
now.
of the kids aren't.
No, and social media has changed everything. So, social media has an amplifying effect on everything. So, like you look
it
at
does like this right now. Hopefully it has an amplifying effect on Brother Earl's beef jerky.
As we're talking about
As
school
we're talking
shootings.
about this podcast is partially brought to you by Brother Earl's beef jerky that is amplified on social media. Hopefully,
Give your kids some beef jerky,
give him
and I
some beef
promise he
jerky
won't
and
do
have
a
him go out
school
and whoop
shooting.
some ass. Tell him to quit being a little bitch.
But like you look at social media, like here's one example of how social media amplifies everything. Drug cartels. Like drug cartels have been around forever, but then the internet hit, and now they're all online trying to outdo each other on who can be the most brutal, who can be the most gruesome.
Do you think
all that
they were
scare
cutting
everyone.
off heads back then like they do
No,
now?
that's what I'm getting at.
Or they stepped it up.
They stepped it up because now they're all competing on social media
With
to be
ISIS.
the worst.
And there's kids joining ISIS and stuff on social media. Did you hear about that? I think she was like a 14-year-old girl that tried to join ISIS, or she might have been like 15 on social media.
Dude.
I don't know that specific case, but yeah, I know about things like that happening.
I know I'm going to talk fucked up. So I'm eating. But it's my podcast, fuckers.
You're eating Brother Earl's true smoked thin sliced beef jerky, right?
Delicious.
Okay. All right.
I met a dude that tried to join ISIS. I don't want to say his name or anything, but I met this dude. He apparently met some guy. I think you know the story. He met some dude. I guess they started brainwashing him, and he started training to fly to Turkey with his wife and 2 kids, and then was going to go to Syria and be part of ISIS. And it was a federal sting. They busted him when he was supposed to fly to Turkey, and he went to federal prison for that.
What did you try to say? No, I was trying to infiltrate them and then come back and bring y'all.
I know. I found out a different way. I found out through the internet. He never told me. Because I was like, damn. When I found out, I was like, I didn't know if that was worse than fucking being a rapist, or fucking like, I don't know where that falls. Like, I don't know if you can even. And the dude was cool.
I'm gonna go below pedophile, but above murderer. They're right in that pocket right there.
How do you feel about a situation like that? What do you think that is? A weak-minded person, someone just finding a place to fit in?
I think a lot of times it's people who are desperately trying to find a cause. Mm-hmm. A lot of religious fanatics, like they desperately need a purpose, and when you find some organization or some belief system that tells you we have all the answers to your questions, and all you have to do is do what we say, and you're saved, you're in paradise forever, and all that. That's very appealing to a lot of people.
Is that what the thing behind ISIS and those are? Is it because if you die fighting for them, you go to heaven?
You go straight to heaven, right? Yeah.
And you're a hero, and get all the
Right.
virgins and the party, and you get to hang out at PTs and all that shit.
Exactly. So, so for a lot of people, like if you talk to a lot of Muslims, and I have interacted with a ton of Muslims. I lived in Kosovo as a civilian and dealt with Albanian Muslims, and then a little bit with Iraqis, not a whole lot, but in Afghanistan, I had a lot of interaction with.
Is there a big difference in
Afghans.
their Muslim beliefs?
Yeah, huge differences. But you talk to certain people, and it's not just extremists who say this. Like I had somebody who's just a totally normal, regular guy living in the United States, Palestinian, and he told me like Islam is perfect. Everything is perfect. It is. If everybody would follow the rules, life would be perfect. But people don't follow the rules. They screw it up.
So they're fucking. Isn't that Catholicism too? Wouldn't it? Isn't everything?
Not really, because under Catholicism, are you going to survive?
See, Allah smite at you for saying that.
I think I got a seat.
But like under Catholicism, even if you never do anything wrong, you're still a sinner. You still have original sin. You still you had a lustful thought about a woman. You're still a sinner, even though you didn't do it.
I thought if you get baptized, that gets rid of original sin, doesn't it? I thought baptized as a kid.
I quit being a Catholic a long time ago, so I don't remember. But there's
Mom's gonna love that part of it.
well, she already knows, yeah. But you're still never perfect as a Catholic because we all still have the lustful thoughts, the impure desires, and all that stuff.
Y'all, dude, don't talk about me.
Yeah.
I haven't had that for 20 years.
So,
And then you go to confession and it
and it goes
absolves your
away, and then
sins.
you get to do it all again during the week, right? Well, in Islam, they don't really. There's not a rule about having bad thoughts, as I understand it. You're not a sinner for just having bad thoughts. It's about what you do. So if you follow the rules, everything's perfect. And if everyone else is following the rules, and you're living in the caliphate, under a system of Islamic governance, if everyone's following the rules and you're doing what you're supposed to do, and so is everyone else, life is perfect. And that's very appealing to a lot of people to think, gosh darn it, if only everybody would believe exactly what I believe and do exactly what I do, life would be perfect. There would be no problems.
Doesn't the Chinese Communist Party think that way too?
Probably, and that's why there's so many people who like communism.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Who's the people that like communism?
A whole bunch of college students, apparently.
Really? Mm-hmm. That's the new millennials, like.
No, Gen Z.
Gen Z, yeah. Not all of them, but obviously.
They're for communism?
A lot of them are, yeah.
I didn't know that.
I had the very interesting experience of getting called out during the George Floyd protests. Every police agency is, having to call everyone in the streets because of major protests. And I wind up on a protest line. And as I'm out there on this protest line, 3 Hispanic communist kids come up, and they're communists. They're wearing distinctive red bandanas. They're all, all of them. And they're over there just talking shit about us. And one of them starts calling us class traitors. And that's a communist thing. So, yeah, there's a whole lot of support for communism out there, especially among the youth. And Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, they've been having rallies in Austin.
Oh, been doing
I know a few comics too who are
communists.
Yeah, they're communist and Antifa as well. Because I go, you're Antifa, right? And they're like, we're all Antifa. Do you like fascists? I'm like, ooh, that's a good point. I guess I'm Antifa. Do I get like a bandana or?
Yeah, that's what they try to say. Like, oh, Antifa just means that you oppose fascism. Okay, well, I oppose fascism.
Yeah.
I sure as hell am not Antifa.
Yeah.
It's this kind of stupid word trick that they do to try to dismiss what they're actually doing.
It's a conundrum that you're fucking stuck in by saying, "Oh man, it's Antifa." Oh, so you're fans?
Well, it's the same thing, like you said, to defund the cops. Like, yeah, of course, we're all anti-fascists. We don't want to have another Hitler, but at the same time, we're not like, hey, let's take away all the money of the people that worked for it. You know what I mean? Like,
right? Yeah.
And it's funny. When they say 1%. People forget that includes the middle class in the United States. It's 1% of the world. The middle class is richer than most of the world. So that includes you too.
Yeah. And the other thing, when you look at things historically, and this is something that really pisses me off when people look at, and they'll say it sometimes, like, I'm just talking about what's happening in the United States, and ignore all the rest of human history, all the rest of the world. And like, we are living in a society that is wealthier and safer and has more opportunity and more equality than probably, we're living in the top 1% of all humans who have ever existed in all of history. And that includes even the guys who are struggling financially right now. They're still living better than almost anyone in human history.
Cold food showers.
There you go.
Warm food showers.
Yeah, and cold food too. Refrigeration. Ice. But people just ignore all that crap, and they're saying, no, but it's not perfect. There's still inequity. Well, no shit.
It's never going to be perfect.
It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be equal. Humans do not want to be the same as everyone else. That has never been the goal of the average person. I want to be exactly like everyone else, exactly the same. It's like, no, we all want to be better. And that's humans in every society.
Not everyone. I know some.
Well, there was one guy who didn't want to be better. Yeah, okay, but
I remember him.
But generally speaking, that humans are wanting to. That's why there were empires. There were people trying to amass wealth and conquer foreign lands and all this stuff. And it's not just been white empires. There were the Mongols. There was the multiple caliphates actually. Yeah. There were empires in Africa. There was the Aztec
took over
Empire.
Spain and all of
exactly. There were the Moorish invasions. The Moops. The Moops. This is the Moops did.
Yeah. Jeez. I didn't know that's why they called it the Dark Ages.
Yeah. It was, and a lot of people don't know this, that the Muslim conquest of half of Europe.
Yep.
and they're coming from multiple directions. The Moors coming up into Spain from North Africa, and then the Ottoman Empire invading from the east, and they made it all the way to the outer rings of Vienna. So
where they got the sausages, they ran across some little sausages, and we're like, we made it.
yeah.
So I wanted to ask this: why do you think we pulled out the way we did of Afghanistan and
So you
left
wouldn't have a
everything
kid.
there? Because I know I want to get your opinion, but what I was thinking was, you know how we use Afghanistan to do proxy wars like we did with Russia, right? Is it maybe to do a proxy war with China, just because if they're 72 kilometers from China, and they have like 3 million Muslims in concentration camps there, so they got to be pissed at that.
Well,
They have 3 million Muslims in concentration camps. in China?
I don't know I don't know what the number
That's a
is.
lot.
I know they have a lot of Uyghurs.
They have a huge ass prison system over there.
yeah.
They're-
Well,
they're-
every communist
yeah,
system has a
they're
huge
they're also
Really just an
harvesting.
unreal-
They're harvesting
Yeah.
their organs. That's why they stopped doing it. Like Americans can no
They're
longer
harvesting
get.
organs now too. Have you heard that?
I mean, I've heard things. I haven't looked into it, so I can't say.
Oh, I'm
for
sorry.
sure.
I'm a local
yeah,
conspiracy
your conspiracy theory down.
Yeah,
Turning people into
don't know.
walruses.
So
The spider goats.
yeah, the reason that we left the way we did, as far as I can tell, it was just a terrible decision made for political expediency. A decision made by people who were extremely unrealistic and did not listen to the warnings from the people who knew what they were talking about. And it was a terrible, shameful retreat, made worse by the president insisting this was the plan, this was how the mission was supposed to work. We literally were begging the Taliban not to kill us as we ran away, and they were nice enough to not kill us. That was not part of
Maybe
any
the
plan.
Gen Z Taliban is a little
I
nicer.
don't know. Yeah, but it was terrible. That was I mean, I hit a really low point when all that was happening.
What shocked you the most? Seeing those people falling off the airplane? And
No,
shit like that? Or when they
that was
when they
not
killed
all
those
that-
Marines.
No, that was not surprising either. I mean, Afghanistan's like Australia. Everything's trying to kill you. You know, it wasn't surprising to me that Afghans would not understand the dynamics of air flight, and so would think they could hang on to a C-17 in flight.
Well, that dress that they wear probably got caught in the wind.
Yeah, I mean, when you're flying 400 miles an hour,
Yeah, you don't want to have one of those
you
dresses on.
You better have been doing the grip strength
Yeah.
exercises.
Kind of
I
wear
mean,
some Speedos. Or
yeah,
something.
they didn't know. They didn't understand.
You'd freeze even if you were able to hold on.
Yeah, and it's like I have tremendous respect for the Afghan people. I don't even hate the Taliban. But the Afghans, it's a warrior culture. I mean, those guys they're fighters. But a lot of them are very poorly educated. And so they just didn't understand what they were doing when they were hanging onto that plane. And it was really a terrible tragedy. I mean, I only know of the identity of one of them, and it was like a 17-year-old soccer player, desperate to escape to the West because he knew what his life would be under the Taliban. And, it's really awful the way we failed that country, the way we failed those people, the way we failed the guys that I fought shoulder to shoulder with, the ones who trusted us to stay there and to maintain some kind of stability.
Do you think we were supposed to stay there just indefinitely?
Well,
We're still in Japan. We're still in Germany.
Well, but there's no war going on. We don't have anybody under threat in Japan and Germany, right? So, in Afghanistan, it was still a war going on. I didn't even know that the last 18 months of our troop presence there, we didn't lose anyone to combat. Like we lost some to accidents or suicides, but we didn't lose anyone to combat. We only had 2,500 troops there. I didn't realize that our troop levels had dropped that low.
What was the most we had at any one time?
The most we had was almost 100,000.
At one time?
That was under
Holy
Obama.
shit.
Yeah. So there was a surge that Obama pushed in, I think, 2010. But then, after stability was more or less restored, he started withdrawing troops immediately. He wanted to get out too. Like everybody wanted to get out. I wanted us to get out. I didn't want a forever war. I didn't want us over there trapped in a stalemate. I don't blame the president or anyone else for saying, "Look, we needed to get out of there."
The way they got
it was the way that it was the way we did it.
Why do we announce it? I don't understand that.
That's political expediency. That's strictly political expediency. That telling the voters, "Oh, I'm going to get all the troops out by a certain time," and the way it was done was so stupid and haphazard, and everything fell apart. And from my perspective as a military guy, it's obvious it fell apart, and nobody was prepared for the situation to devolve the way it did. And that really it tore up me and a whole lot of guys that I know.
So what do you think? I've seen pictures of you sitting there with Afghanis, I guess,
Afghan
eating and stuff, and those are just the villagers and the goat herder people and just the regular working people that you're around. Those aren't soldiers, right?
Some of them were soldiers, yeah. So
they don't dress any different, though, right?
The picture I think you're talking about, we went on a mission, a big patrol through a valley where we had been in a huge fight the month before. So we go into this valley, and I go with the Afghan soldiers to this one particular village, and the Malik, who's a village elder, he comes out and welcomes us, and he's thanking us for driving the Taliban out. And you kind of most of these guys are lying; they pretend to be on our side, and and then they ask for money or whatever. And I'm talking to the Malik with the translator, and I asked him if anyone in his village got hurt, and he said, "Well, we had an RPG hit one of the houses, but it didn't hurt anyone inside, and a goat got killed." And I said, "Well, did y'all eat the goat?" And he started laughing. Said, "Yeah, we ate the goat," and didn't ask for money or anything. So I figured, okay, this guy's pretty legit. And then one of the older Afghan soldiers starts talking to him, and it turned out they were both fighting the Soviets together in the same unit. They didn't know each other, but they were under the same commander.
Oh, so they've been doing it a long time.
Yeah, they've been doing it a long time. And so this Malik, like he brings out tea and has his sons bring out tea and cookies and stuff, and we sit there and talk for a little bit. And there was a wedding going on in the village that day. So he tells some of his guys, go get some food from the wedding. And they had one little paved rectangle in the village that's, the size of think of a parking lot outside of a tiny gas station. Mm. And they put out this big mat, and then they lay down stacks of bread, non-bread, like the big-ass tortillas. And then they brought out these bowls of this really greasy rice with bits of lamb in it. And then it had this really, this reddish dipping sauce, really oily. And so we would just tear pieces off the bread, and we're all just sitting there together, the Americans and Afghan troops and translators, and we're just sharing all this food. And I happened to have a $20 bill in my pocket, and a couple other guys had some cash, and so we got it together. We got $50 together, and we asked the Malik to have someone take us to the house where the wedding was going on, and we talked to the father of the groom and told him, hey, thank you very much for the food. This is all that we can give you, but, hope you accept it. And that was like one of the best days that I had ever in the military.
And
it
what
was
is
such an awesome day?
$50 American money?
It turns out it's really not all that much. 10 years before that, it would have been a lot of money. But $50 by that time was, they had all these guys getting rich off American contracts and stuff. So $50 wasn't all that much. But still, these are villagers like out in the middle of remote nowhere. So hopefully for them, it meant more.
So it's like the peso?
Nah, I mean, it was, I don't know, maybe it was like giving him a $20 bill now, something like that,
Oh, okay.
So it was a gesture of gratitude. It was the best we could do. And I think that that's how he took it,
You were showing him that Americans weren't pieces of shit.
Right. And, and we're in there, talking to the kids and just really enjoying that interaction.
Does it seem like they're living a happy life over there?
Sometimes, yeah. So the thing with the Afghans with their culture is they're always at war. They're always fighting someone. And if someone invades, they're all fighting the invaders. Then the invaders get sick of their shit and leave, and then they go back to fighting each other. It's not a nation in the way we think of it.
They have tribes.
They have tribes. There's feuds between people in the same tribe. They're just always fighting.
Isn't that where Alexander the Great fell in Afghanistan?
Alexander the Great fell in India.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think he fell from illness though.
Yeah,
So,
but I mean, his troops, they kept trying to. Yeah, and that was the place where they.
That was right. That's Afghanistan is where they could not hold it because the people were just too wild.
Well, isn't it because the terrain there, the way that Afghan
Part of it is, yeah.
that they know those mountains, those people from there know those mountains like the backs of their hands, and they know
and
you can't stop them.
nobody moves up and down mountains as fast as Afghans. Like holy cow! Like I remember like struggling to get up a mountain, and here comes an Afghan soldier just like running up
With a bunch of stuff on them and shit too, or
they don't carry. They tend to not carry a whole lot of stuff.
and they're in sandals.
Not the soldiers. Soldiers wearing boots.
They're wearing boots?
The Taliban wearing sandals. Yeah.
And are y'all getting beat by dudes in sandals like Crocs?
No,
What are they
and
wearing?
that's
They're
the thing
like
is
nice sandals.
That's the thing is we typically would not get beat.
Yeah.
You know, so you can win a firefight over there, and it really doesn't change anything.
But it's guerrilla warfare.
It's guerrilla warfare, and the Taliban are shooting at us, and then they realize, oh shoot, we're gonna lose, and they hide the rifle and go back to pretending like they're farmers.
Well, see, I would have because for one, I can't wear sandals with rocks like that. I would have surrendered them first. Like no, no way. I was like, when you get a rock under your sandal,
Yeah.
the war would have been over right there, dude.
Yeah, no, they are. I mean, they're tough.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
And I remember, here's a good illustration. There was a fight we were in, like everything went wrong. Everything. And like 5 guys got killed within the first couple of minutes, 4 Afghans and an American. And I was in the relief force that came in to try to back him up. But still, everything was wrong. Well, as we got ordered out. And I'm running down a hill carrying the body armor from a guy who was wounded. Like they had stripped everything off of him so they could treat him, and they had already evacuated him. Well, left his body armor behind. So I'm running down this hill with his body armor, and I was 38 years old, and as I'm running down the hill, I roll my ankle, and I'm like, oh, son of a bitch, and there's gunfire everywhere. Our guys are firing everywhere, and we started off this little outpost. It was like 2 kilometers away. Well, the Afghan army has an old Russian artillery piece there, and they have laid this gun flat, and they're firing at houses. Like, we can't call in airstrikes on the houses, but they're firing this artillery piece at these houses. And so there's these huge explosions and just gunfire everywhere, and I'm running down this hill, and I roll my ankle. And I'm like, oh, son of a bitch, but all right, I'm back on still my feet. Start running again, like 5 steps later, do it again. Have to stop again, make it 10 feet, roll my ankle again. And this time my knee goes with it, and bam, I flop down. And as I'm struggling to get back up, an Afghan soldier he's like a blur, zips by, and he's carrying half of body armor from a Marine who was killed. They cut the straps to take it off. So
why did they take it?
What's that?
Why did they take it so someone else could use it?
So you don't leave it behind for the enemy.
So they'll use it.
Right. So he comes running down with half body armor, and as he's running by me, he drops that one, picks up the full one that I've got, and boom, gone down the hill. And I'm like still struggling, like, I feel like I need a cane, and I felt really old at that point. And and then I keep running down the hill, and then right when I make it to the bottom, I'm all pissed off already, and it's hot. This is August, and we're
during
losing.
the day at night.
This is in the morning, and it wasn't super hot, but it was August. It was hot, and I get down there to almost to the road where the armored vehicles are that we're about to load up in, and right when I get down there, there's a little lip like this far. I've just got to step down to get onto the road, and then I hear boom down the valley, and the captain who's in charge out there yells RPG, and everybody goes poof into the dirt, and I was like, motherfucker, and I just kind of just sort of fell over into the road, and the RPG sails over our heads and blows up somewhere. And I'm like struggling to get up, and my knee's all fucked up, and my ankle, and I'm pushing myself back up and thinking like, those bastards, I'm not throwing myself down in the dirt anymore. And as soon as I get back up on my feet, boom, RPG, pow, everybody back into the dirt. And I was like, son of a bitch, and I fall over again, and they miss again, and then we got to load up in these vehicles and run away. And it was just
frustrating.
It was frustrating, horribly. And that wasn't all of it. I mean, that wasn't the worst. But I think I was originally talking about the Afghans being tough and just being a fighting culture.
You got into firefights in Afghanistan.
I got into firefights in Afghanistan. Yeah. I was out on foot in firefights in Afghanistan.
Like heated. I guess a firefight. You could die in every firefight.
I mean,
do you feel like you're gonna this could be it? Like, do you have you seen Platoon?
Right.
I'm sure multiple times.
Yeah.
Remember that last time they're gonna go out and that dude's man, I got a bad feeling about this, Sarge. Let me out of this one. I got a bad feeling.
I did not. No, I never felt like that. I can only think of there were 2 times I can think of where I was scared, where I felt scared, I should say, because I know there were more times I was scared, but I didn't feel it because anger masks fear. And so it's very functional for a soldier. So I remember one of the missions where I was on top of a hill with actually the French sniper team, and I was up there being their liaison. And so we're getting our reports from our informants. I can turn and talk to the French, and they can immediately put all the word out, right? So we're on top of this hill. We're getting shot at, and I'm frustrated because I can't see where any of the enemy are, and I was having trouble doing something. And I reached for my radio handset, and I grabbed the handset, and when I went to bring the radio up, I looked at my hand, and my hand is trembling.
You were Tom Hanks from Saving Ryan's
Tom Hanks,
Privates?
Private Ryan, yeah. But I remember, like, I stopped, and I was looking at my hand like, fuck, am I scared? Well, I was so busy, and I was so mad. I was scared, but I didn't realize it. Well, there were a couple of times, one mission, and you can actually pull it up. It's on YouTube. There's a battle of the Alisai Valley. When we rolled in and took the Alisai Valley, and I was at that moment. Alasay is how it's spelled on YouTube, and it's like 9 parts. It's on part 8.
And you're there?
I was on that mission. So I was gunner on a Humvee as we rolled into this valley, and the fight was up ahead of us. We invaded a Taliban valley. Okay, and the fight was up ahead of us all the way in. But then
y'all knew that this was Taliban Valley, or y'all stumbled across?
No, this was it was a huge operation to take this valley. And so then we get to the objective, to this little government building outside this village, and then we're just trading shots with the enemy for a few hours.
Did I spell that right?
And I can't see anything on here.
Yeah, it's not doing anything. It's still stuck on John Wick, Chapter 3, Parabellum.
Yeah. So,
no.
Yeah, no, SAY. Yeah, but as we're up,
Lasay.
ALASAY. Yeah, so put an A between the.
He's got a degree, bro. He's the only one in this room with a degree right now, too. And
there we go.
Yep. Let's see.
Part 8, he said.
I'm not sure if that's going to have if that's going to be. If this is the one I think it is.
This is on your YouTube channel?
No. This is just on one. A French journalist filmed it. So if you advance about halfway through, it'll show the. Okay, I am somewhere right around here where you can see me ducking down in the Humvee with the 50 cal. As we're in a crossfire, but I couldn't tell who the hell was shooting. Where they were shooting from. But on this mission, when we got to the objective, then we're trading shots with the enemy, and I'm on the gun on this Humvee.
What's that flag?
That's a French flag.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a French position in the mountains. So a sniper fired at me and put a round like barely over my head. And so I ducked down, and I'm just looking over the top of the armor on what we call the teacup.
Uh-huh.
And he fires again and goes closer.
Did you know that dude?
No, I don't know if that was a civilian or an Afghan soldier.
So he fires again over your head?
He fires again over my head closer. And so I ducked down below the cupola, and I moved the gun so that I'm just looking out through the slit.
Uh-huh.
And I see he hits in front of the Humvee twice. I see the dirt kick up. And then I didn't realize at the time, but he shot the gun shield. So the gun shield has these little bulletproof panels on it. And he hit the gun shield, and I saw just like I heard a smack, and I saw something fly up, a little piece of plastic or something flew up. Well, I'm used to the metal gun shield, not the ones with the bulletproof panel, so I'm expecting to hear a ping if I get hit. I didn't realize that we actually got hit.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until later that I got out and looked at the front of the Humvee and saw this big, like fist-sized bullet mark. But I was scared a little bit then. I was thinking, this guy's going to put a round. Yeah, he's going to put a round right through that slit and shoot me in the face. On that same mission, the next day, when they started shooting at us again, and so we roll the Humvee out to get closer so I can shoot back with a 50 cal, I felt a little fear then, but I never felt fear that paralyzed me. I never felt fear that stopped me from doing anything.
Was there dudes that got that?
What's that?
Like those dudes that froze up out there? And
I never saw anyone freeze up.
Yeah.
No, I saw guys who were too scared to go. I saw guys who and they were never like the ones who got ordered to go. It was, well, you could go on this mission.
And they were like, yeah,
I got to build this PowerPoint presentation and,
hell
things
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
In Afghanistan, that's very important.
Yeah, it was. You would be shocked. All of the admin, all the briefings,
Oh, I'm
all
sure,
that stuff.
yeah.
There were dudes that...
You're at war.
Yeah, there were dudes that did tons of PowerPoint. There were PowerPoint Rangers, a lot of them. Yeah, so if you advance a little bit, this was after we took the objective. Okay, hang it back up here. Back up to about right there. Okay, sometime around there, the Taliban launched a surprise attack when things had been quiet for a while, and they hit one of the French vehicles with an RPG, killed the driver, set the vehicle on fire. That was about 75 meters from me. Then it just turned into this huge fight of everybody shooting at everybody, and
the Taliban is just like they're randomly scattered out through the area, so you really don't know what you're shooting at. Do you call in airstrikes?
They almost called in an A-10 strike right in the middle.
Is that what that looks like when you're out there?
That's what it looks like. So the tracers that you saw in that couple of seconds. Okay, that's one of the French. Okay, so the tracers at the bottom that you see going like this way, that's from my Humvee. Or we were.
Oh, that's you shooting?
That's not me shooting. At the time this happened, my gunner, I had traded off the gun and I was driving the Humvee. There was something interesting that happened. Here's something weird about not being scared because shit happened so fast. But when the French vehicle got hit and then everybody starts shooting, and I'm thinking, shit, I'm in the open. I need to get the fuck out of the way. And so I start backing the Humvee up, and I try to get around the side of this building, this little government building. Well, as I'm backing up, my gunner's firing the 50 cal all over the place, and like I look in the side view mirror, look forward, and I see 4 tracers spread out horizontally just go over his head, about 10 feet, like pretty high. And then I look in the side view mirror again, and when I look forward, there's this gigantic, like it looks like a glowing basketball, is coming from this village about 300 meters away, coming toward my Humvee. And for a second, I thought it's going to hit right on the windshield right in front of me. And what I remembered of that is, we're all screaming and the radio's going and my gunner's shooting. And then what I remembered was everybody stopped screaming. And my gunner stopped shooting. Everything went silent.
They were watching that shit coming at you?
And I was watching it coming at me as I'm backing up, and I was thinking first thought it's going to hit us, and then I realized no, it's barely going to miss. And I watched it. It was an 82 millimeter anti-tank rocket, and I watched it just go by right at window level, about 8 feet away from the Humvee. And so it zips by and blows up behind us. And what I remembered was, after that, everybody suddenly started screaming again. I found out years later from talking to the guy. He was actually a civilian who was in my front seat at the time. I was talking to him.
Civilian? What was he doing?
Civilian. He was actually
He's just hanging out. He needed a ride, bro.
He was an anthropologist as part of a team working with the military, trying to understand the Afghan military.
I took an anthropology course in prison, dude. In college when I went to college.
It didn't involve getting into firefights.
No, they didn't offer like, hey, would y'all like to go to Afghanistan and do some out of school training? Fuck, dude.
Well, this guy. Like 3 years later, I talked to him, and we're talking about that fight. And I said, "Man, when that rocket went by, I was like, holy shit, that was insane." And he says, "What rocket?" And it's like, the rocket that went by. There was no rocket that went by, and it turned out he was looking that way, and so he never saw the rocket. He never stopped screaming. I just tuned everything out. It's called auditory exclusion.
Yeah.
Everything shut down, and the only thing I was looking at was that
here it comes,
friggin' rocket coming at me. Yeah. But I didn't feel any fear. It was just like this calculation. Like,
you didn't have time to feel fear.
Yeah, is this going to kill me? Or, no, I don't think it is. And zips by.
What are they doing here? Oh, it's church?
That's the day after the battle where the chaplain was holding a mass.
So the chaplain would go right out there to y'all in the dirt out there and just set up a map?
Yeah, that one would. Yeah, he would go to the French. I mean, I was never.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But,
you don't go to church.
Right.
Are these like the first guys that they kill out there since everybody's like gone? Like,
nah.
No, they don't go after. I figured if you saw Christian.
Did they ever snag anyone?
They try to kill everybody.
Do they try to kidnap people? They do, right?
Not us. No, I mean we the way we operate, we're always in a pack.
Yeah.